Alright, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It is B-Lutz, and this is Ball with B-Lutz. We're talking about the opening weekend of March Madness. We're going to go through Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We're going to talk about the round of 64, the round of 32. We're going to talk about how NIL is packed. We're going to talk about it all. We're going to talk about the game, the good games, the buzzer beaters, the bad games, the heartbreak, the enjoyment, and some trends we've kind of seen over the last couple of years. If you didn't tune into my pre-bracket video, my bracket prediction video, please go back and watch that. I think there was some accuracy still within all of it, and I am trying a new camera angle today. This is more of a backdrop than my door. So if you comment, let me know what you think about that. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Day one started off with TCU versus Ohio State. With TCU pulling out a great win. That was a great game. Powers was really good. And they had number 5 on their team, forgetting his name. He hit a bunch of clutch shots, pretty much saving them in a lot of spots, because TCU jumped out early in that game, and we don't have time to dive too deep into every video. It's going to be a pretty long video, I think. Might even split it into 2. Yeah, he was in clutch shots all game. I thought they might have been giving it to him, but that guy Powers got good penetration deep, and it's crazy. He got into the paint, and then he dumped it off to his teammate with like a second or 2 on the clock, and he put it up and in, and he was basically at the hoop. So I thought it was good execution from TCU to beat Ohio State after I thought it was coaching error, the reason why. Like, TCU was like doing so well in the first half, and Ohio State clearly made adjustments. It was going to come out differently in that second half. And I feel like TCU just was reluctant to make changes until they did, and then Powers got going, and then that was kind of the game back. I feel like, the game after that. But that was a great opening game. I mean, if you didn't see that game, it was a really fun game. I believe it was followed up by Duke Siena was pretty early. Duke struggled in that game. They struggled all weekend, so we might as well talk about their second game versus TCU. So it actually kind of works out since who they played. I want to have the bracket up as well, but they did the same thing versus TCU, where they've struggled in the first half so far, and then they've kind of just had a really good they've had a really good second half where things have clicked, and the coach has done a good job adjusting. I forgot who their young coach. And but first half of both those games, I don't think they'll do that. They can't do that the further and further they go. I know they got like Michigan State and potentially UConn on their next few games. Like what I said in the first video, the East of this tournament has been insane. It's been blue blood after blue blood. But I think Duke is going to have to for sure play better in the first halves. But they've been really good in second halves of games in the tournament, and they've made shots. They've executed down the stretch of games. So I think Duke can still go far, just a little less confident. I think everyone is after watching that first game. Who is next? Moving into the St. John's, Northern Iowa, and then Kansas Cal Baptist, and we'll probably just talk about the second round game because both those teams kind of took care of business. Peterson's really good. Coach Panito is really good as well. That sending St. John's at their first Sweet 16 in the 21st century since 1999. I was texting my buddy and he wanted to bet. I told him this type of game where you bet on Kansas if you're betting on it, but you think St. John should win, I guess. And I was like, St. John's gonna win this game. But Kansas came around for their money. Kansas sucked the air out of the room for over 3/4 of that game, and St. John's was kind of just a little bit better throughout it, and I think that was the difference. St. John's obviously hit a game winner. Well, guess we can talk about that execution. If you're Kansas, everything you wanted to happened, but then you kind of just like, I know you can't, like, you probably think you can't foul on that layup, so you kind of have to just make sure they don't, but you can't let them get like any dribble penetration. That's not my team or anything. Peterson has become more of a mystery. We'll definitely be talking about him soon on the channel now that it's kind of the NBA turn with him. It's his time in the NBA now. So I'll make I think he's as of right now, I still think he's second best player. I think Acuff has the chance to pass him. I'm not really sold on Boozer being better than him. I don't think anyone is. But I think what really is going to trend, and we'll talk about Arkansas more when we get there, is Acuff trending upwards in the draft. I could totally see Acuff playing into the second overall pick. I think DeBonds is a lockout one. We'll get to him as well. He looked really good, but kind of going back to Peterson, he struggled too from the field. He didn't make a 2-pointer till the second half. I thought he was still their best player. This is the type of the game I feel like you view him lower. That was a tough game versus St. John's. Like, I would have been a good win if he beat St. John's. I really wanted to see Duke versus Kansas, but I feel like NCAA prospects, like NBA prospects, never play each other in the tournament. It feels like so. Like big, like the first couple picks, they never. That'd have been cool to see. Otherwise, Louisville almost blows a game to South Florida in the first round without their best player, and then I believe, I'm not gonna get this wrong. I think they lost the second round. But we'll get to that in a second. Houston played next, along with Michigan. Michigan looks really good. 4 out of Michigan's 5 stars landed over the weekend did not play there last year. It's kind of going into the NIL question about there not being that many upsets. There was not that many upsets this year. It felt like there was 8 day 1, 6. There was 6 day 1, less day 2. A lot of just good teams handled business. Can't really complain about when teams like Illinois, Michigan State, like those are blue blood programs. Houston's not losing in the first round. Michigan, Gonzaga's not losing in the first round. Arkansas looked really good. Nebraska, I think this is their first. Is it Wisconsin? No, it's Nebraska. It's their first ever NCAA tournament win, and then they won the second round as well. So they're playing for a chance at the Elite Eight versus Iowa this weekend, and that's going to be just electric. Another couple close ones. They're only being 1-5-12 this year. That being High Point with I think everyone's sweetheart of the year. Too bad they couldn't advance further. I think we all wanted to see them advance further. Pull it up. Let me pull it up. They played Wisconsin. They had a guy, was it Johnston? Is that how you say his name? Who literally just shot threes. I mean, it's one of those things, like, it's hard to predict at the time, but looking how the game went, like, of course they upset. I'm like, who was the dude? Rob Martin, 9 for 23. Wow, that's crazy. Thought that guy totally had a different name. Interesting. Chase Johnston, there he is. 5 for 7 from the field, 4 for 6 from 3, including the biggest bucket of the game, his first 2-pointer of the year. I think they just caught him. They're typical. It's hard to be a 5 seed in March Madness, not opening round. There's such just a stigma there. But otherwise, that was such a fun game. That kid was hitting. I swear to gosh, it was late in that second half, and his teammate dumps it off to him literally at the logo, and this dude took one dribble and just pulled it. And it was just net. It was just a wet ball. And that was the second game. You were like, oh my God, they're going to win. And they did. They pulled it off. They had a really tough time. The following Saturday, who'd they end up playing? They played a good team, it's hard to remember. Oh, they played Arkansas. That's right. And Acuff gave them the work. That's right. Other games, Texas is into that. Yep, I thought I'd wear the Texas merch today, as they are the first team the lowest seed into the Sweet 16, the only double digits team into the Sweet 16 this year. Another fun game was the St. Louis Michigan game. I know we're kind of jumping around right now. Sorry, go back to Thursday. Michigan's really, really good, and St. Louis had nothing for them. St. Louis the size Michigan had on that court killed St. Louis. The size alone. And like St. Louis played a good game. They have Avila, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, whatever you call him. Curry Blur. And he couldn't really get anything going. They just got so much size on that Michigan team, and talked about Lendenborg, I think that's how you say his name. He had like 28 in that game after having a quiet first round. He had a really good second round. So I didn't even think St. Louis was a bad team either. I thought St. Louis was a really good team. They're consistent like the whole turn in their 2 games. They just didn't have enough for Michigan, I think. And we're gonna get to Florida getting upset. Don't you worry. Moving into Friday, Florida puts up 114 points just to get upset in the second round. Really wasn't that many. Kind of looking at it, the only upset that happened was 2 9 seeds. So that's kind of been the length of the tournament. Name of the game in the tournament. There's one in the thumbnail of Santa Clara, Kentucky. That was an insane game. If you haven't seen it, we're gonna be putting OWA on our drop boards. I don't care. You put up 35, 8, and 7 on a must-win March Madness game, and you're telling me there's that many people. I would say like 15 people, but he should be a top 20 pick, I think, come this summer. OWA was so tough. What happened was Santa Clara had like the game on the line. They drew up a perfect play. They got a 3 with about like 2 or 3 seconds left, and Kentucky inbounded and sprinted. OWA sprinted across the court, and he put up a long 3, and it just bottomed. Sent the game to overtime. It was a crazy sequence, and then Kentucky brought it home. And literally, like, to be fair in Kentucky's defense, Santa Clara did not get back on defense. Their coach was trying to call a timeout, but they were literally celebrating, and he caught them lacking. And they won the game, and they suffered a really tough loss. What did they even play? We'll get to that too. Miami, Ohio, after going 32-0, was 32-0 or 31-0. Loses back-to-back, and season's over quickly. Tennessee take care of business there by 20. They didn't really stay out. They got murdered in the first half. They got worked in the first half. The shooting strategy, it's really tough when you don't make shots, and they didn't that day, and they go home early. But hopefully we see Miami Ohio program a little bit more often now. It's always cool when we get teams like Cal Baptist, like teams that aren't in the tournament a lot. It's cool to see them. But NIL's kind of been killing it competitively this year. A lot of these top rosters are just $20 million investments into teams. Going into the second round, it's in Lendenborg, had a big game. Duke took care of business to score. They just went all out. Duke went crazy in the second half. They've been a really good second half team. Don't sleep on them. They might start slow and kind of struggle to understand, but once they get like clicking and rolling, the Duke team's really good. I think that's they've been in close games too for like 4 or 5 games now. That a couple of them they've blown out, but like they haven't had a game where they just like dominated start to finish. But it isn't a bad thing at this time in the year to be in close games consistently and winning them consistently. Like, one point they'll probably need to blow someone out because you can't just keep rolling the dice, but at the same time, they're been in clutch situations. Houston smacked up A&M. Little Texas rivalry right there. Houston's real good. I think Houston... The cracks will start to fold this weekend for teams that aren't truly contenders, I think. And don't sleep on Houston. Michigan State's really good this year. Fears Carr had a big game. Michigan State, I think they're playing Duke next. That will be a really good game. This will be a really good test for Duke. And if Duke loses, Michigan wins. Michigan State is legit. Next up was Texas upsetting Gonzaga. Feels like the yearly Gonzaga upset. They're always getting upset by someone. I feel like Gonzaga doesn't lose the teams above them. They just lose them. We knew Gonzaga is like good but never contenders. I don't think you should fire your coach. I don't think you move that coach. I think you keep him. He is the program there. He'll go to one other big school and get a bigger NIL and have more resources and win if you let him go. And your program will probably suffer pretty bad, is my opinion on Gonzaga. Davis Fogel, I think I put him in the... I don't know if I mentioned him in the video, but I put him in the news blog. He's a kid from Anacortes. He had been having a couple good games, kind of looking at the box score into this Texas win. Texas is good. They've now won 3 in a row to get here. They still have 4 more wins. But Jordan Pope, Matas Fokantatis. That's a hell of a name. Let him score. Sorry. Getting distracted. Davis 3 for 9. They just... You kind of just knew Gonzaga. Texas just took control late, and it was just over for Gonzaga, to be honest. Illinois gets a big win. Nebraska, that was like game of the tournament so far, is Nebraska Vanderbilt. Insane game. I'm more interested in the Nebraska Iowa game next week. We'll talk about that when we talk about Iowa, but Otherwise, Nebraska's legit. They won their first 2 ever NC. They won one, and they were the first time ever on Friday, and then they won a second one, or was it Thursday, Saturday? Might have been Thursday, Saturday, or I think it was Friday, Sunday. They won their second game to literally go to the Sweet 16 for the first time ever. That's what basketball's about. At least NIL is doing that too, because Nebraska was never a basketball school until this. And then the final game was Arkansas and High Point. I didn't really give our High Point a chance in this game. Gary Sacuff's playing the best basketball in the country right now, and they're well coached by Cal. I'm still worried that they'll have an earlier exit than I think a lot of people are hoping. It was Thursday, Saturday. Okay. Because Cal I would love to see Cal win it with the Razorbacks. Honestly, it'd be cool as heck. But we don't know the winner yet. Moving on. Iowa, Florida. Recap this real quick. We all knew Florida was going home early. I think that was the 1 seed everyone was picking to go get upset first, or lose first, I guess. But to get upset by Iowa in the second round, catch them slipping. At least they won it last year. But the defending champs are down on the first weekend, kind of leaving the door open for a new winner. There's still UConn. Kansas won recently. I think that's it. Who won last year? I'm blanking on who did it. Oh, Florida won last year. Duh. But blinking for a new winner, hoping for a new winner. But yeah, they get upset by Iowa. Announced in the Midwest. If you haven't seen the memes, Iowa's playing Nebraska in basketball in a Sweet 16 game. Yeah, you heard it right. That has never ever happened. Ever. And both these teams are good and they're both fun. And it's gonna be a good game. Iowa versus Nebraska. I think it's on Thursday. And yeah, it's gonna be a good time. That'll be a really fun game. Watch him. It'll be really competitive, real rival. That's a real rivalry right there. And that's for the whole Midwest right there. Next, Arizona takes care of business versus a good Utah State team. That Burry's boy. This draft class is so stacked, and it's gonna be tough ranking prospects, but we'll get to it. And we will at some point rank all of them, but Arizona's still really good. I still think they're my favorite. They got through the first weekend, on to the second. It's kind of that simple. We'll preview some matchups real quick, too. I know I'm talking fast and a lot. I'm sure it's hard to keep track of what's going on, but next was Purdue taking care of business against Miami. Purdue's defense looked really good. They got good minutes from Lawyer, who we talked about in the first video, and they're through the first weekend pretty safely. So Purdue's looking good. Don't sleep on Purdue. We might want to talk about Purdue again, but next was this Iowa State game I was mentioning earlier. Iowa State taking Kentucky game I mentioned earlier, taking a tough loss to Iowa State. Iowa State absolutely turns it up in the second half. That might be the best defense in the country. They didn't even have Joshua Jefferson Jr. Didn't even have him. I kind of put in the video too, and kind of what the pre-course was about this team was they were just being inconsistent, but if they're playing their best basketball, they probably can run it with everyone. And if that defense looks like that and they're playing like that, I think they're as good as anybody. And there's no reason to sleep on them. Next is UConn taking care of business versus UCLA. Didn't really give UCLA too much of a dog in this one. Too much of a chance in this one. Kind of the UConn's rolling right now. I wonder I don't know who they actually play next. Hold on, let me make sure I know who they play next. Oh, do they really play St. John's next? No. St. John's plays Duke next. So who is playing? Oh, they got a meeting with Michigan State. So the Final Four in that one is Michigan State. Who did we literally just say? Well, we know St. John's, we know Duke, and UConn. Being the 4 teams there, that is going to be crazy. Next was Tennessee getting an upset versus Virginia. Tennessee's a really good team, man. Don't sleep. They earned this win. I don't think a lot of people actually really thought they'd win this. Not one of the more popular matchups, but they got what they needed to. They closed up down the stretch, answered runs, had counters for what Virginia had, and just another early Virginia exit. Who's that surprised? On to what I personally thought was my favorite game of the day was the St. John's, Kansas. I was anticipating this one with Peterson in Kansas going up against Coach. Just said it earlier in the video, but I'm blanking. It was Coach Cal, but Coach Cal's literally Arkansas. Oh my gosh, I was blanking so hard. Yeah, St. John's gets out a really close win. They had a game winner where we talked about earlier in the video where Kansas scored. I think Peterson got fouled and got free throws, and they had 3 fouls to give, so they used. And this was smart to keep them behind half court so they couldn't inbound up past half court. And it worked. They killed so much time where there's only a few seconds on the clock, but then managed to let the guy go like 60 feet or 50, 45 feet, 40 feet in like 3 seconds and put up a layup and win. So they kind of defeated the whole purpose of what they did. Literally killed the whole purpose of what they did. And St. John's advances to the Sweet 16 to play Duke, and I think they're going to beat Duke. To be honest, that's my prediction for that one, is they're going to beat Duke. And then I thought it would be a competitive game, but Alabama smacks up Texas. It wasn't Texas Tech. It wasn't close from the start. That's kind of sad. I wanted to see Petty do good, but Alabama made a statement. Low-key, people were not watching that, and Alabama put belt down. So we have 16 teams left. Going on to next week. Starting it off with Texas versus Purdue. Nebraska versus Iowa, which will be like that's in Houston, Texas. That'll be like game of the year. That'll be so much fun. That'll be game of the Sweet 16. Yeah, and then Purdue versus Texas. I feel like I've seen that matchup before. That's crazy. Arkansas versus a tough Arizona. This is a big game for Arkansas. If Arkansas can pull this off, oh my goodness, that'd be crazy. And I think they have a chance. They're going in as almost 8-point dogs, 7.5-point dogs. Oof. Yeah, that's the biggest dog of the weekend. Even Texas is less of a dog versus Purdue. And Houston versus Illinois. So if I'm a betting man, what I'm thinking Purdue, Iowa, Houston. I want to see Acuff win this game so badly. We're going to pick them. We'll go Acuff. We'll go Houston, Arkansas, Iowa, and Purdue. I don't see. We got the UT stuff on. Maybe UT makes Elite 8. But, yeah, I mean, I just don't not see that Iowa-Nebraska not being a good game. I think it's just going to be a good game. And I think Houston-Illinois will be a solid game. And we're hoping Arkansas, Arizona. We're hoping all of them are good. We're hoping all of them are good. We don't want a bad game. And moving up, St. John's, Duke, Alabama, Michigan, Michigan State, UConn, Iowa, Tennessee. I think Iowa is going to win that game. It's only less than a 5-point spread. But I think Iowa State's going to win by more than that. I would take probably the over on that. UConn, 2.5-point favorites versus Michigan. That's going to be a really good game. I really think UConn's going to win, but I think it's going to be close. I think it'll be a close game. It'll be a good game. It'll be a grinded out game. This will be a defensive slugfest between Michigan State and UConn. This type of game where everyone's missing shots and it's just defense. Lots of fouls, aggressive, 2 well-coached teams. I mean, how long has Tom Izzo been there? 30 years now? And obviously Dan Hurley's won multiple championships at UConn. So that'll be like game of the week. That'll be game of this day. So we'll have Iowa, Nebraska, and Michigan State, UConn as game of the weeks or game of the days. And then St. John's versus Duke. Probably gonna pick Duke in this one. Duke's 6.5-point favorite, and the Michigan State's 10-point favorites over Alabama. I'm gonna be watching that to see if Alabama has any size for Michigan. If they don't, game's over. You have to have size for this Michigan team. This Michigan team is huge. It's NBA size out there for Michigan, and there isn't too much of a difference between NBA. All right, so my phone died right at the end there, so it's just me a little bit later. There wasn't much else to say otherwise about the Michigan game, and that's basically it for the video in general, so I was just going to cut it off here. My name is B-Lutz, and this is Ball with B-Lutz. Thank you for watching the video, and if you could, just leave a comment what your thoughts were of the opening weekend, and if you could hit the like and subscribe button, I'd greatly appreciate it. We'll be back some point this week, probably talking basketball or talking NBA. Thank you again. Have a good day.